Incoterms 2010 FAS Free Alongside Ship. An Incoterm represents a universal term that defines a transaction between an importer and exporter. In that sense, both of them understand the tasks, costs, risk, and responsibilities as the logistics and transportation management since the exits until the reception for the importer country.
Incoterm FAS establishes that the seller completes his obligation once the merchandise has been set alongside of the ship at the named port and by the time the custom duties has already been done.
Once the seller completes all that he has said, the risk of the loss or the merchandise damages that are already set on the ship will be assumed for the buyer immediately.
FAS can only be used for shipping and inland waterways. This term is very suitable for general cargo. A practical advice is that the seller must deliver the merchandise at the according date and in the usual port, attaching all documents that the buyer needs.
If the name point is not specified at the contract, the seller could name the place.
Who should, according to the Incoterms 2010 rules, assume the costs for security charges for the transportation of goods?
At the time of preparation of Incoterm 2010, the drafting group examined the various security agreements on goods worldwide. It became clear that although the cargo security is an issue much more important than it was in 2000, there was a global practice uniform. Without a uniform global practice, the drafting group showed reluctant to impose change. Therefore, Article have A2, B2, and A10 and B10 amended, but only to a limited extent. Under Section A6 of the term C, the seller must pay for the transport and relate to obtain a contract expending transport. In any case, if the practice of goods offered by the seller, including transportation, is set by the buyer and the contract purchase take effect between the parties under this term, then the seller should bear the subsequent increases in rate of transport.
You should always assume the buyer.
Assigning security costs vary between the seller and the buyer depending on the chosen Incoterm.
The buyer will have to pay for the issues such as increasing fees, expenses related to deviation extraordinary or changing traffic route.
Within the meaning of the Article B6 in the C, risk transfer also determines the distribution of costs. If something happened as a result subsequent to shipment, as a contingency, jeopardy, a collision strikes, the authority orders or adverse weather conditions unforeseen costs claimed by the carrier as a result of these contingencies shall be borne by the buyer, unless specified to be vendor account in the contract of carriage.
What costs from a realistic perspective might arise during transportation without being associated with freight paid by the seller?
Under Section A6 of the term C, the seller must pay for the transport and relate to obtain a contract expending transport. In any case, if the practice of goods offered by the seller, including transportation, is set by the buyer and the contract purchase take effect between the parties under this term, then the seller should bear the subsequent increases in rate of transport.